Okay, now we're going to talk about selection and use. Okay, so if you didn't see my breast cancer video, I will go into detail about how to use essential oils. But I think more importantly, before we get into that, and the one thing I didn't say in that video that I will make sure to say here has to do with ingesting oils. However, in the meantime, to begin with, I want to start with the selection. How do we select our oils? There's a lot of companies that sell oils. There are some master scientists out there that work for these companies, and it's fair to say that not every oil is made the same. So the most important part to selecting oils, number one, is to know your supplier. It's important to know who they buy, what farmers or what producers are getting their oils from, and it's also important to have tests done. And by test, I mean there's such a thing called chromatograph, and there's also the spectroscopy. Okay, the spectroscopes. So you want to get a copy of either one of those. Now there's different versions of the chromatogram. Actually, it's a chromatograph. There's different types. There's the gel chromatograph. There is a gas chromatograph. There's a thin liquid chromatograph. And there's another one that escapes me that is far more detailed, but is more difficult to get our hands on. However, the first three that I mentioned are suitable enough to at least get some sense of what your oils are, what's in your oil. And it's important to get one for every batch that you purchase, because plants, as I've mentioned in prior talks, they adapt to their environment. So it depends on the growing season. It depends on the land, the nutrition that they received. I'm trying to think of other things that affect. There's a lot of factors that go into the quality of the oils just from the plant alone, and that changes per season. So it's really important to understand what batch you're receiving, what the growing season was like, and what the heck is in your oil. You can, a lot of times, like I mentioned, with regards to breast cancer, limonene is an important constituent. And there's several oils that contain limonene, but if you're really trying to be aggressive with dealing with cancer, you want to make sure that you at least start off with a higher level of limonene. And it's not possible to kind of randomly open up a book or a website and say, oh, well, bergamot has limonene in it. Well, yeah, it does. But you may have a crop that didn't produce as much. So these change. This is part of the reason why it's harder for people to encourage the use of essential oils, because they vary depending on their exposure to the environment, just like we do. So getting these tests and realizing that depending on where the plant was grown, that's another one. I just realized that. That's another one. Depending on where it was grown. All plants have their origins. Some plants get relocated, or they're also grown in other parts of the world. Well, other parts of the world have different soils. They have different means of caring for those soils. So realizing, like I said, the source of your oil is paramount. I can't emphasize that one enough. So it's the origins from where the plant was grown. Next, it's the company that is not just harvesting, but actually producing the oils. It's not so much the farmer as it is the producer. Now, here in this United States, it's difficult to find somebody who farms and produces oils. That's more common in Europe. In fact, well, I won't say anything further than that, other than it's really important to have these people give you with every order, what batch you're getting. And at some point, the batch is going to change. So this is information that you want to get. You want to know when the plant was grown, so you want to know what year it was harvested. You want to know from where it was harvested, and you want a chromatograph that was completed, or a spectroscope that was completed at the time the oil was produced. Now, it's kind of like an MSDS sheet, all right? That's essentially what it's like, except the MSDS sheet, well, I'm sure you know, tells you not only what chemicals are in it, it tells you the hazards and whatnot. The chromatograph and the spectroscope actually provide you with very detailed information. And the reason why this is important, it's not just the number, it's not just to identify all constituents. It's also to identify any adulterations that have occurred. All right. So now we're getting into the stability of the plant, depending again on the growing season, on the environment, the way it was cared for. All of these factor into the stability within that plant. And depending on that stability, some of these constituents can be knocked out, they can be altered, and so it's going to alter the quality of your oil. That said, there are people who are extremely brilliant scientists that have gone to work for a lot of these producers, or some of these producers, I shouldn't say a lot, that now provide ways to, like I said, to adulterate these oils. Now, what's the problem with that? Well, adulteration means it's been either, well, affected by other chemicals. Lavender is a good one. They've learned how to spray the lavender fields just prior to harvest with esters that enhance the aroma, kind of like MSG. And so what's happening is these scientists have figured out how to alter the outcome with the plant. And so these plants are being altered somehow, and ultimately you're not getting the quality that you think you're getting, because what you're doing is you end up, is it that you're being exposed to more chemicals? Possibly. But more importantly, it's affecting the stability of the constituents, of the real constituents that are in there. And we're talking about an application process and a holistic. I'm going to use organic in the truest sense of the term. This is an organic, holistic process that we're referring to, that when somebody alters these plants, you're not getting that any longer, because the stability, the foundation of that plant has been undermined. And so now the body's going to react to it differently. Will it be effective? It's chances are you're going to see, there's going to be some benefit. At the same time, though, you're not doing what you think you're doing. Is this something to be heavily alarmed with? In my opinion, this world is full of chemicals. This world is full of toxins. This world is full of everything. We are exposed to man-made technology every single day. People are doing what they can to make a living, to produce a profit. So I can't, in some weird way, can't fault anyone for doing this, because, keeps their costs down, their growth, their profit margin goes up. I'm not a fan of greed. I'm not a fan of what is the word I'm looking for? Dishonesty, I guess. So, I mean, these are all things that are, it depends on what's important to you. But the fact is that these are the things that are going on, and if there's no other reason to be concerned about this, it's to know what you're paying for. There is no sense in paying a high dollar rate for an oil that's been cheaply made. That's all there is to it. And that's the part that gets to me. And that's the reason why I'm suggesting this. But the adulterations are prolific, and many people end up paying for the chemistry that's being imposed upon these plants, and you're not getting the true sense of the plant. So knowing your source, having them provide you with all necessary documentation to prove the quality of your oil, and that's probably the most important part. As far as who's a better company, I don't want to go there, because everybody has good reason, and everybody is doing what they want to do to make a difference in this world. I really fully believe that. I'm not against any company. I won't represent any company. I've been working with farmers and producers for nearly 30 years, since I got started with the Natural Fragrance Company, and I continue to work with those. I will say this, though, about the labeling and the marketing of a lot of these oils. There is no such thing as a therapeutic grade oil. It's just not. It's impossible because of the variations within the plants. It's absolutely impossible to claim every single one as therapeutic grade. That is a marketing term, and I put my foot down on that one. It is a marketing term. I want to reiterate, these plants vary from growing season to growing season. You might have a really great high quality oil yield one year, and the next year you're going to have absolute crap. So to consistently distill and produce these oils and always refer to them as therapeutic grade is nonsense. Fragrance grade, yeah, you can definitely call it fragrance grade. There are some oils that they've identified what creates the fragrance in that oil, and they bottle it. That's a fragrance grade. That means it has no systemic effects other than pretty much just the fragrance. And there's nothing wrong with that. You're still getting a true oil. You're just not getting a complete oil. So you want to make sure it's complete. You want to make sure it's also genuine and authentic. I'm going to repeat that. Genuine and authentic. If your labels do not say genuine and authentic, you do not have a genuine and authentic oil. And if you do, you might want to let your company know that they need to say that, because that is a huge marker for whether or not it's an oil to be used at this level that I'm putting out there. So yeah, there's no such thing as therapeutic. There is organic. That's a touchy one. I've helped out with, and well, I shouldn't say helped out with. I've compounded and formulated for a number of companies here in New Mexico, body care companies that became friends with a gentleman who has his own body care line, who managed to, through working with the government, be able to, he can actually register various products as organic. But one of the things that Keith told me was that when it comes to body care, only 1% of that product needs to be organic. And by organic, they mean grown without chemicals. Through studying the documents through the FDA, it's questionable. It's real questionable. Plants don't have to be, they can be grown without chemicals. But the chemicals, they can come into the production area. So the fact that your body care product only needs to be 1% organic in order for the label to say organic is disturbing, to say the least. In my opinion, and this is just simply my opinion, there is no such thing as anything organic on this planet any longer, in the sense of how we believe organic to be. or how we like to think organic is. Organic means, organic to me is something that develops on its own. Carbon-based, has a life, it's alive. That's organic. The way we've come to use the term organic, it's, again, I'm going to say just another marketing term. And so for an oil to say organic, I don't know how that's possible. I spent a great deal of time actually up in the Amish communities, and it made me chuckle to be sitting next to farms or be on a farm, be in one of their houses. I was actually, one of my clients up there is an organic farmer, and he was very proud of it, and he's done an extraordinary amount of work of helping other farmers up there become organic. But you can have an organic farmer, and then the farm right next to it, which is on the other side of that fence line, they're using chemicals. As far as I can tell, we're sharing the same air. So for anything to be considered organic, I struggle with that one. However, if you are using genuine and authentic oils, I'm not going to say they're organic. What I will say is, if you are using genuine and authentic and you can back it up with the proper testing to show the quality of that oil, now you know you're doing your body a world of good. And so if there were chemicals involved, and there are chemicals involved with that plant, you can absolutely support the body to feed itself and get the right nutrients so that it can detox on its own, because that's the really brilliant thing about our bodies, is they are designed to detox, as I've been talking about. They are designed. So you give these cells the right instructions, and they will do what it takes to get rid of the stuff that you don't need. So using genuine and authentic oils is your best bet. And making sure you have your tests so that you can prove what constituents you have at what levels. It's not so much to prove, it's to see whether or not it's adulterated, but it's also to see what the heck is in there. And if there's variations in your limonene, if there's variations in your borneol, if there's a variation in your beta-caryophyllene, you want to know these things, because those are very important constituents for a number of health issues. And we will get to all of these as we go. So that said, with the quality and selecting your oils, now back onto application. So as I've mentioned before, less is more. Yeah, less is more. We're not talking about dousing ourselves with oil. We're talking about a little dab will do you. 1 to 2 drops. You can use that up to 3 to 4 times a day. If you take a bath in it, 10 to 15 drops in your bath. You can do a foot bath. That's another way to get it in. It takes 20 to 40 minutes for the oil to fully metabolize, depending on your system. If you inhale it, there's more of an immediate effect. There really is. And by no means do I encourage ingesting these oils. We're not trying to digest them. We're trying to ingest them. We're trying to get them into the system, not break them down any further. So I know there's people out there that believe in putting these in your drinks and taking them as in supplement forms. I don't recommend it, because depending on your digestive system, and most of us have really significant issues with our digestive system, you're not getting the full use of that oil. So your best bet for application is topically between the toes and the groin area, in the folds of the thighs, under the arms. You can place it between the fingers, the webbing. The webbing between the toes and our fingers is the most absorbable part of the body, next to being sublingually, which is under the tongue, and you just don't want to do that. And again, right here, because at that point you can inhale it or taking a bath in it. But I've had some people go, well, you don't want us to ingest it because you're afraid that that's because you're saying it's not a good oil. And I'm not talking about other chemicals. I'm talking about not breaking it down any further. Essential oils are secondary metabolites. That means the plant has already taken in its nourishment, and it's taken the chemicals from water, from the air, from the carbon dioxide. It's taken all these things in, and it's had its own chemical reactions, and it metabolizes these chemicals and produces those constituents. we don't need to be digesting those constituents any further. So with that said, I think I've covered the application process, but I really want to impress upon you that less is more. And like I said, you can use your oils up to 3 to 4 times a day. Just 2 drops max, 3 to 4 times a day. That's a really great place to start to see how you respond to these oils. Occasionally, you might want to go up to, increase the frequency. It just really depends, again, on what your body is telling you that it needs. And in any given day, that can change depending on what you eat, what your external experiences are, what other chemicals you've introduced to the body, medications, the additives and the supplements. All of these things factor in. So understanding what your body is telling you and adjusting yourself accordingly is incredibly important. And it's also okay to take a break from the oils. This isn't something that you need to do every single day. It's a good practice to get into using them on a regular basis, but these are not to be used like medication. These are to be used, I would start off with the morning. If you're using 2 blends in a day, you don't want to blend any more than 4 oils at a time. Anything beyond that begins to cancel itself out. Number one, the effectiveness of the blend. And number two, too many terpenes in the body, and we're talking monoterpenes, sesquiterpenes, too many terpenes in the body can adversely affect the receptors, the cell receptors, and so too much can turn them off, and then therefore now you're not even getting the benefit at that. So there you have it. If you have any questions, definitely comment below or email me. As I've mentioned before, I'm always available for private consultations, and I want to know what you want to know about, because the more I know what you want to know about, the better off I can serve you. This is going to come, I get these ideas. I mean, today I wasn't even planning on making any videos, and I had these 2 particular ideas today. As they come, I'm going to be putting them out there, but if I say something and I don't say enough about it, please make sure that you press a button and go, Tam, I need you to say something more about this. I'm here for you. This is a whole new way of using essential oils, and I'm really, really excited to be on this journey with you. So by all means, let me know how I can serve you. Again, thank you, and have a really beautiful evening. Bye-bye now.